Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest tonight is the legendary, I'm going to say that, legendary Carol
Hmm.
Tyler. Um, you've been in this business for so long, I can't even imagine drawing comics
For your
for
whole
as long
life?
as you've been drawing. Yeah, your whole life. Um,
Yes, I've been drawing my whole life. Well, I have been. I mean,
yeah.
we draw as children and then we find ourselves doing different things. And I've certainly been the lady who, um, uh, I, I do it because I can't, yeah, people back in the day would say, I don't understand. Maybe you should, let me draw you a picture. So I'm a person who likes to read maps and see it in front of me. And when I organize things, I have to lay everything out. So um, I can't often find the right words. So I will smish my way into what it is I'm trying to say.
No, that's,
Yeah.
I, I mean, that's uh, trying to think of the like a non-cliche. I mean, what I want to say is that's beautiful. I mean, because I'm a teacher. I for that matter I teach special ed. So
Oh,
like
okay.
I'm around people who have trouble finding the right words all the time. So anything that helps people find their way in life is immediately something that I'm in favor of. Um,
Yes.
and the way you've done it,
Well, I've done it with,
also shares a pathway to other people because you then share it with the world.
well, I wasn't a person who, I'm not in the category of cartoonists who grew up reading a certain comic strip and boy, I wanted to grow up and be like that person.
Right.
I had no I had no aspiration at all about anything.
Okay. Okay.
People say,
Well,
uh,
except getting to the Beatles show.
well, I had that aspiration when I was young, but what I'm saying is, and we can talk about the fabs later, but
No, I just like you can't tell
that
me
was
that
a
you had
big
no
aspiration, wasn't it?
aspiration because I've
That was
read
the
that
big
book a
one.
couple of times.
Yeah, that was the big one. But like kids, some kids are like they're gymnasts and they want to be in the Olympics, or they're uh, studying because they want to be a scientist or get into some. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it was in the 50s there. I remember saying to my dad and mom at dinner one night, it was like, I'd like to go to college. And my dad said, well, why would I spend money on you going to college when you're just going to get married and have a bunch of kids? That was the vibe.
It's a very 50s response.
Yeah. And so I thought, I didn't react or think anything about it, but I just quietly turned the wheels all the time, like, well, I don't know if I want to do that. I didn't outrageously say something to my dad or shut up or anything like that. I watched, and I'm always observing everything. I watched, there were some girls in my high school that went on what's called the secretarial route. They
Okay.
learned typing and they were going to do office work.
Right.
And then there was a nurses group,
Right.
and then there was college bound. And I just always thought, oh, going there, college seems more interesting. I don't want to sit in an office. And now, why that choice, or why did I have that hunch that I wanted to do that when growing up, nobody had like, Carol's great. We got to get her in art school.
Now, just because one of the things that I discovered when I read Fab Four Mania is that you grew up in my neck of the woods. I'm in Round Lake right
Oh
now.
my God, you're just over
So,
there.
so which high school did you go to?
Carmel.
Okay.
I mean, definitely with the Catholic vibe. My brother went there.
Right.
My sister went to Holy Child. I don't know if you, that school
I
is
don't know
not
if I know that
defunct.
one.
That was over in
Right.
Waukegan.
Right.
as an all girls Catholic high school. But I didn't want to go there because I definitely knew I wanted to be around boys.
Okay.
So yeah, I went to Carmel, but right before Carmel is when I saw the Beatles.
Yeah.
And when I got to Carmel, it was just fascinating the things I learned and the people from Carmel. Where you went to Round Lake High School?
No, I actually grew up in Wheaton, but I live in Round Lake now.
Oh, you live
So
there now.
I live there now.
Well,
I grew up in the west suburbs,
okay.
but I've been up in the north suburbs for God, 15 years now, 16.
Okay. I'm just going to
Yeah.
say this: Round Lake, Fox Lake, all of
Yep.
that
Yep.
stuff.
All the lakes.
We were considered kind of a lower class of people than the North Shore.
Yeah.
So, um,
I kind of get that because I teach in Lincolnshire.
okay. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And you're from Round Lake. Ooh. Okay. I mean, I don't know if that still exists, but that was definitely the
I
way it
mean,
was. You know, it's
yes,
just an income thing. You know, the Lincolnshire.
both that,
What
right,
else do we have? Highland Park,
right.
um, Hill, Highwood,
I would.
all of those communities. And that was something that came up with me and Justin when we first met. You know, because I was like, "Oh my God, you're from Highland Park. I'm Fox Lake," and he would say to me, he'd sing that little song to me, "Patches from old shanty town." You ever heard
Well,
that song, Patches?
but I mean, like,
You know,
here's the thing though.
he was raised really rich kid, and I was raised by a plumber and a secretary.
But Tom Waits married a woman from Johnsburg, so
Well, Johnsburg was okay.
yeah.
It was something about Fox Lake, Round Lake, Antioch,
Yeah.
that kind of area. I think it was because maybe at the turn of the century, early on, um, it had to do with the trains. It had to do with where
Right.
executives lived. It had to do with there was no highways out there, and
I
so
think it's actually as late as the fifth. Well, like when the first place I lived up here was Ingleside.
that's where I'm
And
from, Ingleside, Illinois.
Ingleside, really? Yeah.
I lived on
Um,
Stanton Point.
I
Where'd
don't
you
know.
live? Did you live by
I
Dawson's
lived on.
Sides?
No, no, because I was tucked in by like there's a lumber yard.
Duck
That
Lake?
I think so.
I mean,
Um,
there's a treasure buried in Duck Lake. I got to go back
r
there. My great grandpa buried some.
right. But like my landlady, because I lived in an in-law apartment. There was the house and there was the apartment off the side of it. My
Mhm.
landlady told me that like it had been the house had been in her family since like 1900, but from like 1900 to the stock market crash, it was their summer home.
Yeah,
And they,
summer homes. That was the thing.
and they were going to have to get rid of it, except that her aunt lost her home in the city and said, "Well, I'm just going to go move into the summer home and find
Mhm.
work up
That's
there."
very common story. That's the way
Right.
it was. So that's who it was peopled by. And Um, but now what's run a lot of like old timers, like my sister and stuff like that, had to leave there because the taxes got too high.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
the schools got better too.
schools got
I
better,
mean,
but the taxes. I, I,
as a teacher, I like property taxes. That's what pays.
that part's good. She taught. I went to Carmel. She taught at Marion Central and lived
Okay.
just on the line in Lake County. But heck yeah, I was water skiing on those lakes and knew those lakes like the back of my hand. I mean, went to Blarney's. I knew where the Blarney's Island, for people who don't know all of the stuff we're talking about. It was a destination. Basically, it used to just be it was all wetlands out there. So it was a hunk of wetlands that they turned into like this bar, hamburger joint that you only could get to by boat. But on the way there, there was a great sandbar for swimming, and we had a boat. And I was all over Ingleside
Yeah.
Lake County. Uh, Shoot, that was and I had roots there. Like I said, my dad would go out there when he was young. They'd go duck hunting, fishing. In fact, they would fish out there and take all the fish they caught into Chicago and sell it on Monday morning
Okay.
for a little extra bonus income. So they did that. But my great grandpa, everybody, they were all out there, kind of a working class people, and then a lot of people um, that lived out there were we called them the Czechoslovakian widows because there were a lot of it was affordable. Um, it was kind of isolated, so like people who like to ice fish and stuff like that.
Right. No,
Lakes
it's
with
worked
big-
out. It's worked out well for me because
It's changed, yeah.
uh, my
My own
my
days,
my
you
wife
hadn't
is
gone
from
with
South
me.
Dakota, so the
Oh,
rest
okay.
of the city area kind of scares her. I mean, she's getting used to it. She likes the things you can do, but like she's used to having not a lot of people around. And you go
Okay.
down into like Chicago and it's a lot of people around. And
People.
this is a nice like happy medium for
Yeah,
her.
Round Lake is. I changed a lot, but it was on my bus route. High school.
Yeah. Yeah, we're actually in Round Lake Heights, so it's that little sliver, literally right between Round Lake and Fox Lake.
I know it well.
So, yeah, no, I that was one of my joys when I was reading Fab Four
You knew that area.
Mania is I'm like, oh, I knew you were from around here because it was about you going to the Comiskey show, but I had no idea that. And actually, I think I might have told you this story. My uncle Andy was given tickets to that show. He was in college at the time. And he passed them on because he had a final. And he's like, I'll catch them the next time they come.
Oh, you probably didn't.
They didn't. No.
Oh, kick yourself. No, no, no. I
He
was real
still
clear about
does.
what
He still
my goal.
does.
No, it was clear to me what the goal was. The goal was to see them in person. I did everything I could possibly do and got to do that. So, I mean, yes, that's why the book title is Beatles Obsession and a Concert of a Lifetime, because I knew exactly. People would say, "Oh, they're a flash in the pan." They're just. It's like, no,
Oh my God. No,
they're not. And
no.
nobody would listen to me or take me seriously because I was a kid. And it's like I was right. That's true, and I knew what I wanted. But then, after I saw the Beatles, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my
Yeah.
life. And so
Yeah, no.
back to comics.
Back to comics.
No, yeah, I mean, I read Nancy in the Chicago American newspaper. My mom got that. She liked to read the American. And,
This is so good.
but, and I remember being in Chicago when we lived in Chicago when I was little. I remember Sunday, the Sunday routine. We'd have the paper. You could lay the newspaper out. It would cover almost the whole living room floor, and you could look at the color comics. So I remember that, and I remember my brother Joe was into comic books, like all boys, and he had a box of them he kept under his bed, but I wasn't allowed in his room, and so um, fine, I won't look at
Right.
them. And then my sister got into Archie, and I couldn't relate to Archie because those were teenagers, and I was a little kid,
Right.
and so I was foisted off Little Dot, little the what is that type of comic? Harvey, all the Harvey
Yeah.
titles.
Harvey
Like
Tales.
you're supposed to like this because you're a little kid.
You didn't even get the Duck comics? I mean, the
I
Duck
wasn't into
comics are at least.
ant ducks or any of that. I didn't like any of that. I mean, I'd have to read it because it was there, but the one thing I did like was Nancy and Sluggo's Summer Camp, written by
Oh,
John.
so good. Okay.
And that yesterday when I was at the farm, I thought I knew I had to come back, and I said, "I'll leave Camp Far for Mama." Did you hear that? I don't want to leave Camp Far for Mama because when we lived in Chicago and I was reading that, to me, it was like the most magical thing in the world that you could go to summer camp. And of course, that wasn't going to happen for me. Okay, I'm talking about being like 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, and reading that and thinking, because it'd be the summer issue. Wow, special. I'd be reading and seeing them go into these little houses, their little cabins. The place was dotted with these cabins. It didn't matter what kind of hijinks they got into. It was the sense of place.
Right.
And so actually, I had to pretend one summer. I wanted to do that so bad. Go to that building that had screens all around. Oh, I just
Right.
thought that was magnificent. And so I took a towel from the bathroom. I made like a bologna sandwich and wrapped up the towel and put the bologna sandwich in wax paper. And I went in Chicago, the whole city's a grid. There's
Right.
building, alley. So it'd be building, garage, alley, garage, building. So that would be
Right.
the unit.
Right.
So I went 2 alleys away.
Okay.
It was out of my range. We were not supposed to leave this like
It was like
central.
running away.
We
You
lived on
crossed the
Addison
street.
Street, and Wrigley Field was one way, and Riverview was the other way.
Okay.
So we were not allowed to leave Addison Street.
Okay.
I could go to Eddy Street, which was behind us, because my grandma and grandpa lived there. But then the houses that you could, if you stood on their front porch and looked across the street, those houses, I didn't even look that way because you weren't supposed to go. But I went behind those houses and I found a garage that was shut. But it had, because the alley is here in the garbage cans, the
Right.
alley. And then there was the garage doors were set back maybe 2 or 3 feet, the actual door. The garage
Right.
could be as close to the alley as possible.
Right.
But then there'd be this little inset. So I found one and I unrolled my towel, ate my sandwich.
I love it. I love it.
That's what I did for summer camp, thinking I was just like Nancy in Nancy's summer camp. So at the farm recently, and even I think I thought this when Justin was still going out there when he was alive. But it wasn't a direct correlation that this was like a camp Mama, but it is, it's a place I can go to in the summer. It's not a year-round place. And basically unroll a towel and have a sandwich.
I love the idea of unrolling a towel and having a sandwich.
Bologna sandwich. Bologna with ketchup on it on white bread.
I think mine would have been peanut butter and jelly. But still.
In meat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so like you said you didn't have any direction other than you didn't want to be a secretary, you didn't want to be a nurse, so you were looking at the college-bound girls. How did I mean, you were drawing all your life, so you were making comics whether you like fully thought about it or not. When did comics become like, oh, this is something I can do?
Sequential storytelling is different from doodling in your notebooks in high school.
That's true.
But my notebooks from high school, for anyone who happens to go to the exhibit at Billy Ireland, I included those in my retrospective show. Because when I looked through them, I thought, I really became a lettering person, letter forms. Because, I'd say like, okay, it's all technology. I did big pens when I did the original Fab Four Mania notes. Those were new technology. Ballpoint pens. So I did everything with the ballpoint pen back then. All my sketches, all my journals, all my little stuff I did for Fab. Then when I got to high school, cartridge pens were really popular. Again, ink. And so I found that, my notebook where it's like Tuesday, September 2nd, assignments due, the assignment notebook. I would just listen to the teacher and draw the letter forms and make page arrangements. It reminds me so much of what I do with comics. Come up with a way to show this, drop shades, block letters, scripts, different scripts, upper and lower, all caps. I worked all that out in high school, but people like to look at it, and with margin decoration, people would say like, they'd want me to pass around in class because they were beautiful. I mean, I'd add color, and there was a beauty to the form that I was adding, but it wasn't like random acid doodling. These were well worked out baseline lettering, one after another, all school year. I did that for 3 years.
I can't wait to see them.
Yeah, I
can't wait to see them. I repeat, the Drop, the Billy Ireland Cartoon Art Museum in Columbus, Ohio, has an exhibit of Carol Tyler's work. Should absolutely go see it. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to when I go out to CXC this year is over to see it.
Seeing the show. It's like epic, it's everything. So okay, let me go on.
I thought about and talked myself out of making the crazy one day I have to be there for the opening. But it was just too close to my school year, and I'm like, I'm gonna be there for the 6th.
You know what you missed? You missed my big orange gown and the little lady that goes around and around, but those are online. I mean, it's there, it's still there.
Yeah.
The exhibit, we'll talk about that in a second, because I don't want to lose the thread of getting to comics. So, music, obviously, was fabulous when I was growing up. You had the Beatles, and then you had all the bands that came after that, Stones. We had Dylan, we had Motown, everything
stacked
that now is on the oldies channels. Plus, I want to add, my mom loved to listen to the radio on her channel. And that would be your Lawrence Welk, Ray Conniff, singers, Rosemary Clooney, all that stuff. So I grew up with the Great American Songbook. And I feel bad for kids today because they're not getting that.
Some of it's coming back.
No, I mean,
Lady Gaga doing a couple. Yeah, but Lady Gaga doing a couple of albums with Tony Bennett started getting kids interested a little bit.
Yes, that's true. But
I'm just around high school kids. I'm surprised by how many of them know the old stuff.
Yeah, because you know what? It's the real thing. It's authentic. It's
rich. I talk to kids about Nina Simone and Louis Armstrong and whatnot.
And we didn't have to
because the other thing is everything's available immediately. Right.
Well, we didn't have to.
But they don't either because it's all on Spotify.
I know,
so
but
as soon as they know the name,
turn on the radio, or it was in the background, or
that's true.
It was curated for us, and it was there. So you get in the car, turn on the radio, and there would be just like a series of stuff. Okay, and then the reason why I brought that up is because with then in high school there's a lot of great music, just great shit all the time. I didn't have to work hard for it. It was there. And then then there was, around the time I was graduating from high school, the things shifted to album rock. So you had bands like, I would go, come on, let's go down to Chicago. Why? because we got a lineup of bands, and there would be Chicago, the band, of course, but then there'd also be Jethro Tull, and then there'd be, Cream, or, yeah, on and on. Those bands, and then that became the album rock thing, the Doors, so it was like, wow. With that shift in culture around the Woodstock era, that I didn't go to Woodstock because I was from the Midwest, but and there was no knowledge. Oops. Okay. I'm gonna go get my charger, but keep talking. There was no knowledge of there was not this hyper awareness of things going on all over the globe or even in the United States. It was very centric to where you lived. So I'm from Chicago. I didn't hear about Woodstock till a long time later, and just by rumor.
Right.
It was all driven by. I'm trying to plug in my. It was all driven by radio stations, and then FM channels started coming. The reason why I say this is because this brought with it counterculture, head shops, our own statements, what we wanted.
Yep.
And that's where the underground comics came from. So if I went into a record shop because I wanted to get like Led Zeppelin record or something,
right,
I'd probably also see underground comics there. And my husband,
that was certainly Dennis Kitchen's.
He said that?
He was the one that figured out. Well, one of the times when I talked to him, he's like, I figured out that like every head shop I could talk into buying 3 or 4 issues of anything. So like I knew that I had this basis for almost any comic we made, as long as I knew where all the head shops were and could.
And we were in there to buy. We were in there to get like, people went in there to get rolling papers. I think these are called essential supplies.
Right.
You'd get your rolling papers. You'd get a rock album, or get some kind of. See if I can. Oh, I can do it that way. I'm trying to accommodate the cord here. Did I lose you? No, there it is.
No, I'm still here.
Shit.
I'm just enjoying the fact that you're upside down.
Okay, so get back to that.
Ceiling now.
There we go. So the album rock thing and music. Oh, I can go like that and say, okay. Do I look upside down?
It's okay though.
No, I don't want this cord. This cord, I have no place to put that. Okay.
No, it like I don't share the video with anybody else. I'm entertained by you being upside down.
Okay. I gotta figure it out. Okay. So my husband that I met in Tennessee when I first went off to a college out there. Man, I couldn't get into. I blew it, and there was no support at home for sending. There was no money to send me to college. My brother got a football scholarship. My sister went to the convent. What was I going to do? I was supposed to have babies. Right. So I went and lived with my aunt in Tennessee, and my grandma had just died, so there was enough money that I was able to get like a car so I could commute. So it was a college I didn't belong at. It was for engineers, but it was because I had family that lived there. I didn't have to pay out of state tuition. I could stay with my aunt and go to this college, and that's where I met my first husband. He was a pot dealer. Plus, he was a second lieutenant in the reserves or something. Make a long story short, that's when I spent 3 or 4 years of my life from after high school listening to rock albums and reading underground comics.
Yeah.
Nothing
Did you have
stood
any
out in
favorites?
particular. It was all like,
Okay.
uh, it just seemed preposterous, and I couldn't relate to the furry freak brothers. It seemed like a one note thing.
Right.
And I also couldn't relate to, I mean, I looked at it, but I thought it didn't give me insight or any of this stuff. And yet I was not a book oriented person because I was illiterate. And what do I mean by that? I mean, there we go. I was illiterate. What does that mean? Um, I was one of those kids that had trouble learning to read. I went to school when I was 4 years old. My brain wasn't developed yet. And so when it came time to read, I did not understand the correlation between a letter and a sound, and you blend those. I didn't get that. And at the time, the way they dealt with it was to label you a dummy, and then you just, the kids would laugh at me because I'd be like,
Yes. There have certainly
make somebody
been
else read out loud. She's
not
terrible.
great times in our education system.
Yeah. The other thing they got wrong was because I'm very literate, and I had to learn to read out of utility, but not pleasure. That's all I'm going to say. And the other thing that they got wrong was that I had perfect pitch and they missed it. When I went to take in kindergarten, the nuns would decide what the talents were. So they sat me on front of this piano and they said, find middle C. I was like, there's no letters on these things. Middle C, find it. Find middle C. I couldn't read. How was I going to read a piano? But at home we had a piano and I could just play stuff all the time. So
I
the
was
sister
about to say
said to my
one
mom,
of the best piano players I ever met couldn't find middle C because she
I
didn't know what any of
know.
the keys were. She just knew which ones to press.
I knew in my mind, I had sounds and songs in my head. I knew what the chords
Right.
were and everything. I didn't know what names they were. But sister said, don't waste your time giving her any kind of lessons. She doesn't have talent. But I bring this up because music is really the core of my becoming a cartoonist. Not only because it was through pop culture and music, but because music has a structure to it that I see when I hear it in music. I see it in my work. So when I sit down to work, I don't listen to music while I'm working, but I understand there's things like syncopated rhythms, and sometimes the melody will go up, but the bass line will go down, whatever that's called. I don't know what these things are called, but I know there's a lot of shaping that goes on with music. There's a lot of, and it starts and it goes to here, and there's often a mood presented, and uh, so then I understood on a level that had nothing to do with language. So it was a part of my head, and that's where I make my comics from. It's not from the logical, rational part of my brain, but it's from something I can't quite put my finger on. Sequence became popular or important to me because when went off to college, I finally did get there. When I went to college and had for the good kind of fun college, um, after I divorced this guy, this pothead, um, people would want me to tell them, I guess I was amusing or something. People would say, tell us about the time your dad's pants came down, or grandmother left her pants at the bus stop. What? And so everybody's sitting around drinking. This is art school, but it was after we went to somebody's house after class. We'd be drinking
Right.
beers. And I'd stand on the bed and deliver these stories, and people would be laughing their asses off, granted that they were beer drinking. Also, I would do characters. I would put myself into a costume. I was doing stand-up before it was a thing. And I was doing it for my friends. And I did it because I wanted to tell stories. So I'd stand up there and I'd tell the story. And I really knew how to animate it and make it great. And I thought about, and I started putting that in my pictures, because the pictures, when I went to school, it was all abstract and minimal and stuff. But I had a pair of pants over here and a guy laughing about it over here. And there was a story about it. And so my teachers were like, they didn't know what to deal with me. And I thought, I think you got to communicate something specific, Tyler. You can't just stand in front of every picture of everybody and say, well, you know what happened in this one, blah, 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 blah. Why don't you just speak it out? And about the time that I was getting ready to, that I was jumping into that area of like, okay, I'm gonna flat out tell the story. That's when I saw Binky. It was around the graduate school time. I saw Binky, and I've been putting words and shit was going on in my pictures a lot, but he specifically spelled everything out about his circumstance. And that really got to me, because I thought, so he didn't hold back with anything. He just told the story. And that kind of depth. I thought, I want to work through that. And then when so I started doing that, then I met Justin and all that stuff. People know that part, but started doing these stories. So there are a couple of things. I had to learn how to realize that, just like the music I was listening to, there'd be an end to the song, there'd be an end to the strip. But with comics, generally, since I was working in the magazine format, not newspaper and not singular gags,
Right.
that meant that at the bottom of the page, boom, you're done, whether it be page 1, 2, 3, 10, whatever. But you got to time your story. And that went back to my comedy that I was doing with my friends, how to time it so that when the joke would come, they were ready. I had to prime them for the joke and then deliver. So it's the same thing with the comics. I'd have to write it up, write through it, and then boom, deliver. And then I started getting published in Weirdo, and Aileen would say, 3 pages, have it by Friday, sure can, boom, 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 boom. So I had to learn how to ace stuff like that. 1 pagers, 3 pages, 5 pages, and tell that story, tell it quickly, and do it in such a way that didn't drag on or drag people down emotionally. Because it's, I've since become quite a thoughtful, I guess, literature-based type storyteller, but I gotta be real careful, because you don't want to talk about, you don't want people to go, oof, get me out of here. People need to enjoy their work. So anyway,
Yeah.
that was how I got to sequence. And it was, like I said, a natural extension of and a confluence of a couple of things that kind of came through. And then the long form stories. I worked at this history museum, and I for 5 years, when Julie was little, there was no money and sign painting was crapping out. So I got this job at a museum, and I had to interpret community histories and big stories of history, and realized at that time that humanity was rocking and rolling deeply. If you're doing research on internment camps, and then you're going to have to make a display about it, how you turn that story into a visual that has impact. So that then, after I ended at the History Center, that's when I did the Hannah story. I got laid off and did the Hannah story. So I figured out something about going into depth about subject matter that was had gravity, had more weight. That's kind of the way things have gone, like with the Soldier's Heart and all that. That's a more weighty story of trouble and trauma. And then
That
now I'm
was my
doing
introduction to your work.
what was that? Soldier's Heart?
So, Soldier's Heart Soldier's Heart was my introduction to your work. Yeah.
What did you think of that book?
My I loved it. I mean, it's not an easy read,
I'll tell you.
but a lot of things worth reading aren't. Um,
Well, that gets you to
I
the
thought it showed a
purpose.
lot of insight.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Early comics were meant to
Lot of
entertain.
insight and a love and but also like I mean I haven't reread it in a while, but like was an honest look at
Hmm.
what couldn't have been easy. You know, that's actually one of the questions that I have in general for you.
Hmm.
And this is going to be a little bit tangential at this point, but like with Ephemerata, you're taking a deep dive into grief.
Hmm.
Um, like I mean, at this point, I know a lot of cartoonists, and some of them, like when they read all the autobiographical work, they're just sitting there going, "This is beautiful, but I could never do this because I can't imagine sitting with it long enough for on the page." Um, how how do you decide what you're going to put out? How do you? I mean, because you yourself, you
Wait, you were
relive.
breaking up. Could you say that again?
I'm sorry, you bear yourself a lot in this new book. You share a lot of painful moments,
Mm.
difficult times. Um, is there a release to drawing it, or is it just I I I don't know how to phrase the question right, and you know
It's
upset you
intense to do.
while
That's
asking
true.
the question because if it is intense, yeah.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do, but it's
Um,
that's why it takes a long time. Because I
yeah,
can't sit there and go into that every single day. No, but you find the fun things that are fun to draw, and you find workarounds so that you're not like, ugh. There's writing aspects of it. There's days when it's like, I can't write about my sister dying today.
right,
Or I will say, today is the day. And I generally try to top load. I generally say, what's the hardest thing I have to do in the next segment of this book? That thing, I'm going to tackle it first. And then that way, I kind of like meet the beast instead of like avoiding, I don't want to talk about it.
right,
Because I know that certain things, here's the thing about that book. It, what I didn't want to do, because I can't assume when you do autobiography, I used to tell my students, nobody cares about your grandmother. They'd say, huh? I'd say, just in general, off the top, I don't care about your grandmother. Your job as a storyteller is to make me interested enough in her that I want to hear her story. What's going on with this lady or this guy or whatever it is that you're
right,
doing? Because otherwise,
right.
you're just writing family history for the sake of family history. And then you really get mired in this personal and inside jokes. And she used to keep a Kleenex box over here. And those aren't those things. That's nostalgia, and that kind of stuff is not important. What's important is who is this person? What makes whatever significant, and what was the impact, and that made me want to make it concrete. So in this book, I knew I didn't want to just tell, oh, my mom died, my dad died, assuming that everybody would care. So it's like, I don't really want to document their deaths. What I want to talk about is how sad I feel. Is that selfish? It's like, no, it's not selfish if you try to understand that this is now, you're living in a new place without them. How does that feel? Where are you? And I couldn't figure out where I was. Could not articulate it for a long time. My mom died in 2012. My sister died in 2013. My dad died in 2015. And all the people in between died in those parts. The neighbor, Kim Thompson, the publisher, and so
Right.
on. So it's not like immediately after they died, I got right to it. I had to sit with that stuff for 5 years, sometimes 6, 7 years, because I didn't want to I didn't feel like I was equipped or ready to tell the story. What story? People die all the time. What story are you trying to tell here? And then it became clear that that sadness was a real thing. You know, it was a thing. It was like a uniform I had to put on, self-directed. It just came upon me. Oh, I'll put this. I'm in this thing, and then I had some crucible things happen. You know, problems with my daughter, my dad, my brother not talking to me. And then when those things happened, and I realized life had a futility because everybody was gone, and I was alone. That's when my brain broke. It's in the book, and that metaphorically made me understand that I was in a different place. The world I had known was gone, and now it's here. What is this place? And that literally happened where I was in here trying to sleep, and I was sad about everything, like I describe in the book. Brain falls apart. My head literally, I thought I had a stroke. Honestly, I went to the bathroom to see I was getting ready
Think
to my
you
face
even
all,
wrote, was this a stroke? I'm looking,
you
I
know,
just happened to be flipping to that page as you were
you know,
talking
am
about
I
it.
having a stroke? Because
Yeah.
my mom had a stroke, and I thought this must be what it feels like, but it wasn't. It was a complete cleaving of life before them and where I was at now, but yet it came with an army of images. So it's like that breaking moment brought forward this place. And then this man came up and told me he was called grief because he couldn't just to keep levity. Remember, keep levity in your life. Grief, Phil, try and say it. You know, this man was saying this to me. Grief, it's so hard to say. But that wasn't the point. The point was that this was a place, it was peopled, it was for function, it was a something, and it was a place where I could maybe understand some things. And so describing Griefville became the first part of
Right.
this book. Yes, all these people died. Now what? You're in Griefville. And I do talk about some of the things I thought about people dead and dying. Not nowhere near comprehensive, but at least I now made an acknowledgement to the fact that it was a big thing that I didn't understand, but that everybody goes through. Okay, then the second part was called The Servant, because it turned out that the people I served were the ones who I lost, and yet it was my sister who was the ultimate servant. So I wanted to
Yeah.
honor her because her death was unexpected and unfair, it seemed. I mean, no death is, but what I was trying to make a point was that old people die. Here our grandma died.
Right.
Okay, we get that. They're old. They've lived their lives, but my sister was um, not that old, and she had a lot on her, and it was just like, oh fuck. Yeah. And then the third part is about more about the aftermath and living with Justin, because around the time I was finishing up the book, he died, and I knew I could not just throw a coda in there about Justin. I knew he deserved another book.
Book.
So the Ephemerata is actually two parts. This is Shaping the Exquisite Nature of Grief, which is what I felt like I was doing in my head. All those things, decorations and all the stuff that came up, stuff from the past, shapes, the lettering, all that stuff came back as being important. And then to tell Justin's story, that comes from it. A big part of that is the farm and the memorial we did for him. And it's mostly about stuff, memory, place, and coming to terms with I had to create and invent a system. I don't know what to say. I had to create an explanation about how we would be in our afterlife here. Because I know what it's like to live after Justin. He doesn't know what it's like to live after me.
Right.
Where do we go? And one of the big questions in book 2 is the essence. Where is the essence of people? Like, where's my sister? I see her purse here. It has no meaning for me. It's just an object, but where is she? She says she's in heaven. I don't believe in heaven. So where is she for me? She might be in heaven, but since I don't believe it, where can she exist in a way that I can have access to a sense of connection and peace? And so all of those questions I ask in the second book. So the first book, as heavy and intense, or whatever you want to call it, pretty dense. It's really a prep for the big questions that come up in the second book that I'm working on now.
In the second book.
Mhm.
And you're doing them back to back, which just tells me that you have a ridiculous amount of stamina.
Well, you
I
know
would
what
have
you
wanted
do?
another Fab Four.
I just
Me
want to
too.
get this shit done. I just like,
That's
this
true.
is my job. Drawing is
Right.
what I do. I'm a pencil pusher. That's what they used to call for it. My dad used to say, "Oh, he's a pencil pusher," because he was a worker. He was a laborer. So my labor is pencils, inking. No, I just
So,
I took up the topic because it seemed like something I needed to interpret and try to make sense of. And then the second book is because I could not smash the whole of the Justin passing experience and my own configuration of how I feel like it'll be in my life and end. Um, I'm going to address that. And it's so amazing because once I literally figured something out. And it's like, I am at peace. Bring it on. I just need to get this done. Then I can maybe do some more. I'd like to do a book about. I've been having so many ideas about going back to that music of my the best stuff. This American Songbook, Great American Songbook. Do comics about
love
it.
that idea. I love that idea. Um, Kind of along those lines, because in some ways I'm more curious with Fab Four, though it um plays into to the new book as well. Um, you're writing in detail about things that happened a long time ago. How do you access those memories, or if you kept detailed journals, or
You mean for
like
Fab Four?
for either of the books? I mean, either of the books is, you're not writing and drawing in real time. Whether it's
Oh, no,
5 years or
journal. They're not
20 years.
journal comics.
Right.
Well, with Fab, I kept the stuff is on display at Billy Ireland. I kept journals, I made notes, I did all that. For
Right.
this, um, for the Ephemerata, uh, I can't forget what
Okay.
happened. I will never forget
Right.
what happened with my sister, how it was with my parents. And even though I kept notes and I wrote stuff, none of that made it into the book. It had to take a different shape. I mean, I wrote these essays and stuff that are so fun. But that's not the point. This book was not about life in Clinton, Indiana in 2009. It was about, losing your mother and I kept it light with my dad because I just did that book on him. He makes a little
He
bit of
already
humor.
had his whole book.
Yeah, so I don't have to go on and on. And I think I covered him pretty adequately. But he misbehaved. I love that was that part. Do you remember those 2 pages that are all text and it says the bones of history?
Vaguely. I'd have to look at it again. It's been a long time.
It
Or wait,
explains uh the ashes story.
in the new book or in the one
In
about
the
Dad?
Ephemerata.
In Ephemerata.
Well, anyway,
How it went down. Yeah, okay.
how it went down. No, it's the one about it just says the bones of history. It's a 2-page spread. And it
Okay. Let me look for another
explains my
two-page spread.
mom what
Ah,
happened.
here transcribed across the bones of history.
Yes. And it really goes into the bungling my dad did with my mom's ashes. That's kind of funny, but it's stupid at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there were things like that. I was like, I am not drawing that out. I'm just gonna write it as text.
Yeah.
And I did have a couple of reference thingies. Like I had some cards in our family photo archives of back in the 1800s. Somebody died. The printing company would make these really maudlin cards. They were like this size. It's like, here we remember, be written up, our dear departed so and so, may he rest in God's angels of law, and the thing you adore forever until the moment of glory. Some terrible poem about death. Will grieve not, will tear not. So sometimes in this book, I would pull up that kind of language. Like, oh thee, my garden, what do you have that you can share with me, a tearful maiden? So I would say that in some places instead of really kind of going into the heavy. I did not want to go into heavy
Right.
Victoria. I did show one page of that, but I kind of just went into that with language. And to pay homage to Justin, I went back and rewrote the entire comic in the last year and upped my lettering game because I wanted him to be proud of me. So in honor of him, I
There you
really
go.
tried to knock myself out with good lettering.
Yeah, you do fantastic lettering. Um, Talk to me about your layouts. Yeah,
Wait, you broke up. Mhm.
yeah, this page, and you refer to it as a two-page text, but I'm looking at like you in bed and thinking all of it across the top and down like so yes, it's a two page text, but like also most of it is in the marginalia. And this is one of the
What are
things
you
I
talking
like
about?
about your work a lot.
Wait, you know what, Ted? Stop. Excuse me, but you're breaking up, and I didn't really hear your question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What I said was in general, talk to me about layouts, but it came into my mind specifically because this page you're describing here, transcribed across the bones of history, you're describing it as just 2 pages of text, and it is, but the marginalia, the way the way that you draw across both sides and across the top, like makes it so much more than that. Um, and
I'm gonna look that. Let me see if I can find that in my files,
yeah,
so I can speak to that. Okay, the bones of history. Let's see, it is. Um, well, I think because it doesn't have probably what I should say is it doesn't have. Okay, there it is. Yeah, I mean, it's two columns of text.
right,
Yes, around the outside edges, there's like, okay, I'm thinking about things that, okay, let's start at the bottom, lower left. Laying in bed thinking, there's some flowers. There's a container. That's my mom's ashes were in the cookie jar. Month of May. There's the dog she jumped on before she died. Mom laying in bed dead. And then it goes over to the holy water, the containers with the ashes, the shelves built, the sandwiches that my cousins built, and the tree planted. Yeah, so I did illustrate on the margins what was said on the
right.
inside, picking out the key things. So that in itself, if you didn't know the story, you would not quite understand it. It just seemed like random border pictures, images. But what it does, it just reinforces.
But it also gives I mean, looking at the page without even rereading it, I was able to get the feeling for what you were saying. And this is something I love about your work is you have this, it feels effortless to me, but it doesn't feel like it should be, of like laying out pages in a way to have maximum impact for every picture, every word, you know. Um, you use panels where panels are necessary. You use wide spreads like this when that makes most sense. You described it as you didn't want to draw it, and that may be it. But even in deciding not to draw it, you seem to be able to put it in a way that just makes it so powerful.
Well, I think at this point in the story, I didn't want to break off. This is 10 pages. That would have been a 10-page
Right.
story. But at this point in the story, I took under consideration reader fatigue. So you get it. I got you there. I got you there. Now
Right.
read and get down to this. Like you go back to page 111, or let's say Bones of History, go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, and it's black and white, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 panels. Do you see that
Yep.
page?
Hmm.
It says, at home, Justin convinced himself the guy next door put a hit out on him. Okay, so this has to move at a different clip because the way that the story, this whole chapter ages, which means person who's, what is ages? Oh, wow, what's our title? What's the matter with me? I'm gonna look that up. Ages. The support. Okay, the support person. So ages. This is the panel of me where I really talk about how I had to step up in hump my ass during this time. So helping my mom. The first, if you go to ages, oh my God, what they did to her in the nursing home. Coming home and dealing with
Yep.
my dad. Having to do, a flood is coming. So it all of this had an urgency and a quickness to it because that's how it felt. Pressure. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. So I get to my house. Justin thinks this. oh, my daughter. So it had to take on a different way. The panels required, the storytelling and the pacing required that it be that way. And then when you get to like the point where I'm sick, throwing up, then the
120.
panel slows down and it's a bigger picture. It still runs sequence. And then we come to the bones of history, and it's like
But also, I mean, it still runs sequence, but the panels are no longer as evenly spread. I
they're
mean,
not as rigid. No, because
the
I'm falling apart.
you're falling apart.
Yeah.
Um, and like it's just it's beautiful. And the question is like, how did it come naturally to you? Is this how you're seeing me? Or is it, like what's the part in the process? How do you work? Do you script and then draw? Do you work page by page? I mean, I I what?
All of the above. I
All of
don't
the
know.
above. That's
I
fair.
don't know. I just know that, like, okay, let's pretend on this one. That getting sick, I hate puking. We all do. But that was like, ugh. And that happened after all of this humping to please. I don't know the better word of it. The intensity of this time when my mom was dying.
Right.
So I just had it, and the difficulty of that. And then it got to me in the aftermath of that. Um, so, so if you look at the panel where the page where you go back 3 or 4 pages back from the bones of history, and there's like my mom's in bed and I'm having to tell her the terrible
Right.
news. And right in the middle of the page, she delivers her most important line. She wanted to be buried under a young tree. She
Young
made it
tree.
clear, a young tree.
Right.
So of course that had to have bigness to it. Had to be larger. It kind of shows me fading off. It's mostly her and the way she's looking and delivering that message. A young tree. So those things are, yeah, those are all very conscious ways of uh, not only delivering information but getting to emotional impact. And I guess it's like what filmmakers would do. You know, when do you do a
Absolutely.
close up? When do you back off? When do you simplify? When do you have to get all detailed and everything? Um, when do you use symbols? You know, so like
It
during the time when there's the throw up time and I'm falling apart, but then the page after that, it's still, the pages are sparse because I wanted to, as opposed to other pages. Yeah, that's when you're sick, you just have a wave of nausea and then there's a space where you try to
right.
live in
Right.
and not feel nauseated. So that's what I was trying to convey there. Just oh, this took, just the epic awfulness of this, and then step back to page 11. It was you know meet the demand, and then yeah. So I do pick layouts. I did that in Soldier's Heart too. I tried to find ways to make delivering the information based on the pacing required, emotional impact, the is there something I can do? I could show this, but how can I show this or such in a way that is interesting to draw, or that, I mean, I could draw myself. See, there's a lot of being in bed thinking, a lot of in bed. I could have just had the same bed over and over and over and over. But you know how it is in bed. You flip over. Sometimes you
Oh
look
yeah.
up because maybe you flipped and you're it's the other way, or the world is turned around.
Well then, I mean, like the coda to that scene or to the whole thing is the scenes from Bones where you've got the panels laid over what looks like, is it a medical textbook?
Oh yeah. Well,
Um,
the book, as you know, takes on more and more significance. It's
right.
the book that I bring up. It's actually the hook for second or for book two, but I don't throw it out there right away.
No, no, no.
So here it
But
comes.
again, like your your work is layered.
Yeah, it's not a
Uh,
medical textbook. It's that biography book I found.
okay, okay,
Scientists. Yeah, and I had
right.
to set it up in such a way that it didn't compete. So it's like I described earlier with music. It's it maybe it's a flute in the background or an oboe or kettle drum. You know, it's something, another piece of something that can either augment or dissipate, you know. It's just a part of the experience of feeling it.
I
Actually,
mean,
these
go
pages,
ahead.
scenes from the bones that you see here, this was the first thing I did in the whole
Oh,
book. I wanted to experiment with, as opposed to Soldier's Heart, I wanted to try, I knew I wanted to do the book mostly in black and white, you know, metaphor for life, death, uh, going back to my roots as a cartoonist, black and white. But I used in this one, I thought, I'm gonna try washes and see if I want to do, it's kind of style hunting a little bit. Like what, because when you start a book, you got to come up with a standard thing to keep continuity. So in the case of this book, I'm in black most of the time. I'm wearing, in the first part of Grief, I'm always wearing that big long black coat. And throughout most of the book, I'm wearing black because that was the style standard thing I set up. So you'd always know, there I am, or, you know. So I lost it. Going back to, oh, okay. So in that one, I was just looking through, well, how did I want to present and hairstyle and everything like that? How did I want to be? Um, I'm in cargo pants a lot of the times because as a servant, having to jump in the truck and go help somebody who's sick or bringing, that's duty. So I always have the cargo pants going. That's not, that doesn't prevail throughout everything. So if you
right.
go through and you look at all my outfits in the book, that's all thought out. Hair and everything is thought out to evoke where I was kind of like emotional. And boy, does it shift when I get into the second book. There's a lot more, there's a real intense part about that, about the, I kind of sold out my physical body to do this work for people. Okay, so,
Yeah.
here I'm being the good daughter, and I'm gonna tell the story about my sister and so on. So let's see. Did you have any other questions about that?
No, I think that was where I was headed. I just again, I appreciate your layout so much. Not just in this book, in Fab Four Media and Soldier's Heart. You know how to tell a story. You know, we talked briefly at the beginning about the difference between the doodles in your high school notebooks and sequential art, and you have sequential art down in a way that not many people do. Um,
Thank
and it's
you.
just a joy to flip through. Um, how far along are you in the next volume?
hate to say it, but I've had to put it down
That's fair.
uh, because I'm dealing with a sick dog, and the exhibit
Yeah.
took. Oh, it's such a great. And
You're
I'm not
allowed to
saying that
take
because it's
care of
me.
yourself.
I will tell you about that. But you asked how far along am I on the other book? I have it about a third done to acceptability, but I know how I am, so I'll say a fourth because I know there's some buttons I really want to push.
Okay.
So at this point, that one is called Ephemerata Verdante. Verd is the word for green.
Right.
Dante, Justin was into Dante. Just giving you a hint. Verdante is the second book, and it's going to be exponentially harder for me emotionally to do than this.
Yeah.
So
I
I've
can.
already lined up a therapist.
That's a good idea. Cause like as somebody who's had my own experience, I mean, I ran dementia units for a decade. So like
I'm
you're
headed there. I've got brain
I
dementia.
hope no, you're telling stories way too well to be headed to the dementia unit.
Okay, I am headed there, but still, I mean, I have to have a therapist because we're dealing with Justin Green here,
Absolutely.
and it's not just Justin. It's legendary. It's this and that. It's the complexities that I came to find out about him after he passed away. My having to wrestle with that, deal with that, uh, while getting older,
I mean,
all of
just
that.
based on what's in this book, you can tell that like what's still left to come is going to be fraught. So
Well, it's
I
gonna be fraught, but
applaud
it'll
you
be
for
good.
finding
It's also a
what?
completion. It'll be fraught but
Yeah.
good, and you'll feel like
Yep. But I
I got
applaud finding the therapist because you got to take care of you too. Like there's a reason why they tell you on the airplane
yes,
mask on first.
that's right. No, it's I could do it, but
It's
it's because of some stuff I found out about Justin. So that particular thing that I'm going to keep quiet right now is uh beyond my capacity, so I do need help. That's why I'm going to get a therapist. And yet it's like I want to do right and tell it right. In my work, I have you never felt like, God, I'm glad I'm not an ex of her. She raked me over the coals. You never get that vibe because I don't uh I'm not in it for doing that. Settling scores or making somebody look
I
bad.
don't think generally it doesn't
No,
generally make good art.
no. So with the
You
thing
know, I
now,
mean, you have to lie for people, but you don't. I mean, there's a difference between because it also makes good art to not be honest about people's faults because you don't want. Does that make sense? What I like about your work is that it's honest. It rings true, rings universal. You know, we all have people in our lives who are imperfect. Um,
yes, and I have to come to terms with that because the
and
kind of imperfect that Justin was, um, I think back on, I want to represent him well, but I don't at the same time want to sugarcoat what happened between us.
right, right.
And so it's not that I have, I'm required to do that. It's just that I think that posterity demands, the truth. And uh, I mean, I look back, I was reading my journals before they got carted away to the Billy Ireland. They're in a case, and some of the pages are on display. It's really nice. But I thought,
Talk about that in a second.
yeah, years ago, I would go, do I want to share that part about having sex on the side of the road with someone? And it's like, if I don't, future people, how will they know what it was like to be a real full human being? If I just cherry pick and pick up the things that Karen Sanitation Company, I don't want to do that. So it's like there's a lot of stuff in there that's like, but I'm going to let it through.
I mean, this this is why Mark Twain had the version of his autobiography that wasn't allowed to be published until 100 years after his death.
Well, I will say our stuff, me and Justin's stuff, has the 100-year gag rule on it. That's for sure. I'm going to tell the story now, and then people later. But no, okay, we can talk about Billy Ireland, which is a very
Yeah, I was about to say, tell me
wonderful.
about the exhibit.
So, bless his heart, John Kelly was assigned the job to do curating, but he had the wonderful happenstance of falling into Dummy magazine, and it became like a riotous hit. So he really had no time to curate my exhibit. But we didn't figure that out till the stuff was going to be due in 3 weeks.
Okay.
They
So to curate it yourself?
Well, they needed a checklist and all that stuff.
Right.
So I called my kid, Julia, me and Justin's kid. I said, help me pick stuff for the show. And then I told Billy Ireland, they said Julia could be like curator, whatever, co-curator. So we picked out a bunch of stuff. And then I thought, because when they first said something about, when Caitlin first said something about a show, I thought, I don't want to do anything. You guys can pick it up and put it together. I am not gonna, because I put together Justin's retrospective show. I had just, after he passed away, I put together I made this gigantic bonnet that you see in the book, my mourning bonnet. I actually made a big giant physical thing and had some of the pages on display with the big bonnet. And so it's like, I'm tired of making all this stuff. They can do it. Well, now John couldn't do it. Julia and I picked out some items. And then I thought, how is that going to be displayed? How do you display this and that and this and that? And then, like that movie, Close Encounters, I thought, I got it. And I went through the house like a maniac and I had to find first I made an inch to a foot map on this tabletop. Okay, see, I'm going to put this here and this, because my daughter, even though she kind of helped pick out stuff, she's so busy. She's out the door. She's maxed out. That kid, she is never has any time. And I thought, she doesn't realize, because I used to work in a museum for 5 years. I know what's required to put an exhibit together. Even though she runs a gallery, it's mostly graffiti and stuff like that. I'm into like installation, just like my pages here. If we're going to talk about this, it needs to look this way. If we're going to do this, it's got to look this way. So I went into this maniac routine, and I was up till 6 a.m. I just went crazy, and I figured out my inch to the foot thing, and then I could start to see it. And then I realized that there's, in this house somewhere, there's got to be a board. So, because everything here is still sign shop, and it's still our house is not really a home. It's just like giant studio space. Clear off a chair, sit down. It's always been that way.
I mean, it's a place where artists live.
Yeah. So like, I know I got a board that says I got to go find it. I found it. Sure, it was a bunch of stuff was piled on top of it, so I had to schlep all that stuff off, load that big heavy board up here, clean off another table, set it down, and then there needs to be a kettle in the middle, because those people, Billy Ireland, complained that there was a giant post in the middle of the gallery space. What if you didn't see it because it was disguised by a kettle? ink kettle, a black kettle. So I went in the cabinet. I found boxes from pasta and everything, and I got pictures of. Yeah, I made a model, and I made a model of the entire gallery, all the walls. I put these things up on the sides, painted it, made furniture that you see in the Billy Island, made the kettle, and made the entire exhibit. And then I made a little camera video like you're going into the show. Because the next day we were going to have a talk about it. And so I said, well, here's your exhibit. We just have to build it. And they were like, Tyler, what are you doing to us? I said, I could do it. You want me to do it? I'll do it. But the thing is, I just really wanted that you walk in, you walk to the right, this giant head that I had from another exhibit. We're going to recycle and put the whole display over here. We're going to use this cabinet, put the journal, and then we're going to have this. And then that whole back wall is California Dreaming. And all the work I did in California, and the corner will be my late bloomer end papers. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to put Trouble and Trauma. And that's all the Hannah story and my dad's story and all of that. And then the kettle is right in the middle. And then, dang if we don't find ourselves looking at some work from Tomatoes I did for Cincinnati. And then that whole wall over there is fab. We're going to have Beatles stuff. We're going to have all of those Beatles and all that stuff. And then in this corner, before you leave, is the Ephemerata. And they were like, whoa, we love it. So then we had to put it together. God. I said, oh, by the way,
I can't wait to see it.
the kettle of inspiration, you can walk in there. So it's a walkthrough. And when you walk in there, there's a place where you can write down what inspires you. The whole inside of the kettle inspiration is a bunch of crap from my house. Just random little tchotchkes and, you know, here's one should be in their USA Olympic team patch. You know, so my brothers were.
I love it. I cannot wait to see this.
Yeah, people see it and they're like,
weeks. Yeah.
It's good.
And you also still tell stories the way that you were talking about earlier from your earlier days when everybody loved the way you told stories, and that's what led to your cartooning.
From Weirdo. You talking about Weirdo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just earlier in this conversation you were talking about the fact that you used to get up and tell stories with your whole body and different voices and whatnot. You just did that for me. I almost wish we were a video podcast because I got the show and our listeners just get to hear the voices as
So
wonderful
just
as
the
they
way I
were.
told you that about the exhibit,
Yeah, I loved it.
that's the way I used to talk to my roommates.
Yeah, I believe it. That's what it felt like.
Just get into it, get animated, and then I'd roll it out, and then whoa, it'd be like, what? I'm standing
Eddie's
here
coming to
because
say
I'm
hello.
walking the dog. I have to take the dog outside, but we're gonna walk and talk. It's fine.
That sounds good. I've got a cat, you've got a dog. They're fighting for our attention.
Well, here's what I have to do. She needs to go down, but I have to, just like in the Olympic, I was just talking about gymnastics, I have to spot her or she'll fall down the stairs. So I have to stand here and push down on her shoulders so that she doesn't go too fast. She's blind and deaf. And this is how we do it, right? Yeah, oh, she's got it. She's got it. Oh, we're good. We got it. And I'm building, I just built, I don't know if you can see it. I just built this ramp. You see this ramp here?
I did.
I built a trolley for her, but it's not done yet. Yeah, so she can get up. There's a hand cranky thing up there. I bought like for a boat. And then
right.
This, let's see, can you turn that on? Let's see. Can you see this thing, this trolley I'm working on?
I love it.
Yeah, so that this big stairway, which is too steep to believe.
Yeah, it looks like it's old building code.
Okay, we got it. We're here, and now we're walking Western Green Archive on our way to let her out.
Yeah.
You're walking through Justin's archive, which is an impressive array of art and letters and signs. And there's my crown, one of the crowns on the refrigerator. Remember if you saw last year, I got two of them I made, and I put them on my bushes out front for Christmas.
I love it.
Come this way. There you go. Then I had to build a ramp here so that the dog can walk straight across.
There you go.
Mhm.
Well, I think that now is about the right time for my what I call my final question. It's my most fun question. I ask everybody this.
Okay.
Tell me something you love, preferably a comic, but we don't have rules. Preferably storytelling, but again with the rules. But something that you love that not enough people around you have experienced, and you want them to, so that you have more people to talk about it with.
That is. Say that again. Something I love that I wish people knew so we could chat it up.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I pretty much put it all out there.
Well, I mean, you can cheat and choose a favorite. I mean, I get all sorts of answers from this. I get obscure things. I get Nate Powell told me current X-Men comics because he hasn't read them in years and he started reading them again, but he's in the indie comic scene, so nobody else reads X-Men. Andrew Iden said his tomato garden.
Said what? What was his?
His tomato garden. He said more people need to try his tomatoes because he's very proud of them. So
I
it's
think,
it's an open-ended question. This is your opportunity to make it whatever you want it to be.
well, I could do 10 things.
You can do as
I could
many.
say tools. Look, I'm really good at the chop saw. I know what to do with every single tool in this room. I'm a good builder. In fact, I think I decided to I'm gonna join the woodworkers monthly meeting because I need somebody that can help me with motors. I don't I'll tell you what I love, electronics and not electronics that way, but I need to learn more about like when I was at the farm yesterday, I said, I should have been an electrician if I wasn't scared to death of getting jolted, but I do understand circuits. Um, I'm going to go to the woodworkers because I can't figure out how to get the belt on my dad's table saw in sync with the motor. So most of the time I'm consumed with uh, tools, building stuff. I just built this ramp,
Yep. You
for
showed
two
me the
with a
ramp.
trolley. I
Right.
could have used a hand. Everywhere around here, I've had to make accommodations. In order to get up on the roof, because I had to last year, I had to build the scaffolding. I built, okay, in Justin's room in here, I built shelves for his stuff out of these are, how do I make the camera do that? This is old, I found this on the, I'm always under the curb.
Okay.
One of those beds,
Yeah.
futon shop was going out
Yeah.
of business. So I found a lot of these things. And then I made these kind of things, like these shelfy things, so that like if I need to pull out to look at something, see this, I can pull it out like a drawer. So I designed it in such a way that I could use these lugs that belonged to my dad that I kept.
I feel
But I mean, I could talk to people about tools and stuff. Just like at
I I love it. I feel
See, I
like this
see.
is when you're done drawing about grief, you should
Mhm.
just draw about DIY. What you draw the tool shop that you should have, and like I love how-to comics.
Well, you know what else I did? Okay, once a month I go to this thing called the Tinkerers, and I fix discarded fans and stuff
I love it.
for the homeless. You know,
I
like
love it.
that end up in these places. So, like a lot of people, they're going to throw the fan out because it doesn't work right. So I'll take it apart and figure out it needs thing.
All right.
So I'm an engineer. I figured out, here's
Well,
the
I mean, you went
wheel.
to that engineering college. Maybe it was the right college for you.
No, I majored in geology there.
Well, but it soaked in. It was like osmosis or something.
Well, I mean, I went there, but I studied it was all guys.
Right.
I'm trying to get the dog back up the stairs. This is why I want the ramp. She's, hold on, and I'm going to answer your question correctly. I'll get her upstairs. I'm up here, you saw the movie, Justin downstairs.
Yep.
It's crazy. I can feel it. Okay. So here's this cranky thing. Anyway, um, I just like that I would discuss with people. I usually end up having to explain to somebody how you do it. Like, how do you fix this fan right here? I got this from the Tinker team. Tell you what I
Right.
did this summer. Can you see this? It says BDE on the dial.
Right.
You can see that. BDE.
Yep.
We're in here in the air hot uh, heat waves. And I thought that sounds like a note, a musical note. So I figured out that low was a B, medium was D, and high was E. And then I went through the whole house. Every fan I have, I figured out whether it was, I don't know if you can see that.
G, D sharp.
Yeah, if it was high or low, it was D
Right.
sharp if it was on low. These are the tones. So even the air conditioner, I figured out the musical scale, the musical notes for all the noises in the house, even the refrigerator. And I thought I'd like to turn that into, because I've been composing in my head recently. I like to make these into songs. I figured out how I'd want to do lyrics too. So from all of that, you can figure it out. But a lot of that has nothing to do with comics, but at the same time, it has everything to do with comics. And I'll tell you why. One quick thing. I love architecture. And to me, making a comic is nothing more than architecture. You're building a house, you got your foundation, you got your foundational elements, you have things you got to do, and so on. So to me, that and music and engineering and all of that to me is what I use when I do comics. Make sense?
It does. It does. And I love it. Just because I appreciate complex brains. I have one myself, and I often
You do.
feel like I'm speaking Martian to people. So when people talk in a way that I go, that makes perfect sense to me, and I bet you that's not true for half the people listening. It makes me feel like I've found my people. I find a lot of them in comics.
Yeah, comics people are not just like one note, I just do. Well, some people are, though. There are some comics nerds that's what they do. But, if you were to say, it's your last day on earth, honey, what do you want to do? I'd want to go outside or be with the dog or make something. I wouldn't want to sit at my drawing table. The drawing table, I love doing it. It feels like home to me. If I'm going out of my mind and I'm frazzled, I will sit at the drawing table and I can literally get calm. But I like to make things and do things, and it's kind of like why I love going out to the farm, because it's like there's always some kind of fucking project I have to do. This weekend I was loading up a pile of rocks and dumping them into an old cistern. It's always something.
Always something.
But yeah, so now you know some of my hobbies. I
Yeah.
like football. I like Joe Burrow. I'm in the Joe Burrow is hot fan club.
I don't even know who that is. I have to look that up. Joe Burrow. I'm not a football guy.
He's the quarterback for the Bengals, but he's also the
Okay.
sexiest man on the planet. As far as I'm concerned, he's hot.
Okay. Okay. I mean, now that I'm looking at a picture of him, I see where you're coming from, but I'm a baseball guy. Remember, I worked in dementia units. When I watch football, all I can think of is the head injuries.
Right. I know. And I didn't watch it for years, but the only reason I watch it now is because Joe Burrow is hot. I mean, he's like cool in the sense that he does fashion, he's always looks. That's what attracted me to him.
Yep.
It's like he's always
Yep.
wearing weird things.
I'm looking at the picture of him that comes up when you Google him, and I see what you're talking about.
Did you see him shirtless with the ALO? So type in Joe Burrow ALO shirtless.
ALO shirtless.
Yeah, that's some brand he's promoting right now. But if you do that, it'd be like, oh, God, it's a god.
Oh, okay.
See that? I'm going to say shirtless.
Keep him away from my wife.
Oh, that very first picture, complex style on. Ooh, he is hot. Yeah. No, he's just good looking and he's nice. He's a nice guy. He gives money to the poor. He helps. He's from poor part of, like, an Appalachia part of Ohio. So he grew up around people. So he makes sure that people get something to eat. He's humble. No, he's a good guy. He's not like some arrogant son of a bitch.
That's good. That's good. Well, Carol, it has been an absolute pleasure. I am looking forward to seeing you again in a few weeks in Columbus.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing the exhibit. It sounds amazing.
Where are you based at?
I'm in Round Lake Heights.
That's right, you said that. And then
Yeah.
what do you teach?
I'm a special ed paraprofessional. So I'm kind of a
What grade?
jack of all trades. High school.
High school.
High school. Yeah. Jack of all trades in special ed.
I have all the appreciation for you. When I used to teach school
Yeah.
as a sub, going into the special ed room was the hardest.
I love the special ed room.
If they didn't have the aid there, but no, because the teacher wasn't there, sometimes the kids would
Right. No, I get it.
Like, where's Miss Smith? Where's Mrs. Smith? I don't want to be here unless Mrs. Smith is here.
Right. No, I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, it's a fun job. And they like that I like comics. So,
What's your favorite comic?
What's my favorite comic? Oh God, it depends on the day of the week.
Genre? Any genre in particular?
All of them. I mean, if I'm like off the top of my head, my pat answer is probably Love and Rockets. I adore Saga. But there's just so many. I have like 1,000 of them on the wall behind me. I read like 1,000 pages of comics a week minimum.
Good for you.
I just
You like Justin's work? Have you seen enough of it? Have you seen like Binky? You've read Binky Brown, I'm sure. If you haven't, you must.
I've read it.
Wait,
Met
Dad, you're breaking up. I
six.
can't hear you. You're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Am I
You're
back?
breaking up.
Uh, did we back now? Or did I? Can you hear me now? I
Yes.
feel like I'm in that I feel like I'm in that commercial. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. No,
Um,
I had
I
asked if you liked Binky, if you'd read Binky Brown.
I've read Binky Brown and I appreciate it. I think it's a step above most of the undergrounds at the time. Um, but I think it's still of the undergrounds at the time where it was one part to shock, whereas you connect. Um, and I appreciate the connection more than the shock factor. I've always thought you were a
Um,
better cartoonist than your husband.
what was that?
We argued about that the first time. We
What was that?
argued about that when we met in 2019. I've always thought you were a better cartoonist than your husband.
And I'll always say no.
I know you will. But I'll stand behind that.
Don't.
You have a better feel for the medium. What I was talking about in terms of paneled layouts, design, storytelling in general, you are just you're in a rarefied group with people like the Hernandez brothers and Fiona Staples and um God, you put me on a spot right now, so I can't even
No,
think
no,
of all of
that's all right. That's all right. I just wondered about Justin, and I don't like comparisons because people have different places that they
right.
like to do with it. Um, I'm also going to ask, did you see the movie?
I haven't seen the movie. I've heard about the movie, but I haven't seen it yet. Yeah,
I watched the movie.
yeah, I should. I don't watch as many movies. I read a lot of comics.
This is essential. If you like comics, the
Well,
movie
remind me the name of the movie, and I'll put it higher on my
Married
list.
to Comics. Married to
Married,
Comics.
Married to Comics. I will watch it before I get to Columbus, and I'll let you know what I think.
Have a box of tissues handy, and you can watch it with your spouse.
Well, I mean, if we have to have a box of tissues handy, she might not want to watch it.
Well,
Though
no,
it's a
here's the thing.
documentary, so a little bit more likely.
A lot of guys have told me, who are comics guys, have said their wife didn't want to watch it because she's not into comics. But then,
Oh, but my wife is into comics.
okay, because
Yeah.
it turns out that it's more a story of relation. It's more of a relationship, marriage type story than it is a
Right.
biography of our careers. It's about tension and all this in-depth stuff you're talking about. And John, beautifully, John Kinhart, the director, he referenced the comics all through the movie.
Right.
So a lot of the stuff that's in Soldier's Heart, he took panels and, kind of sequentially laid them out for the viewer and stuff. So I'd like to know, because if you like comics and you know my work and we've had a chat, it would be interesting to see what you think of Married to
No,
Comics, because people who have seen it just like go, love it.
no, I'm looking at I got the trailer rolling right now, and it looks fascinating. So it will get watched sooner rather than later. Um, and everybody I know who's seen it loves it. Um, I mean, I gave my gave you regards from Dennis Kitchen before we started talking, and
He's in it.
he asked if I'd seen it. So like I know I'm supposed to see it. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Well, you'll enjoy it too. It's not just a have to. It's like, oh wow, it's a good movie.
Yeah. But like the number of movies I haven't managed to see yet is just astounding. I'm too
I
busy
know.
reading comics.
I never
Reading
get to.
comics and teaching. That's what I do.
All I do these days is listen to music now. I'm going back to my music roots, man. It sounds good to me, and I'll listen and hear new
That's what I do
things.
on my lunch breaks. Today was a Kinks lunch break. Yep. I pick a band and put them on random. That's what I do on my lunch break.
So you're gonna hear a first generation reaction to it. It was just good shit on the radio, man.
Oh yeah.
They're good. Like we
Yeah.
said, they're good. That's Kinks. They're good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Well,
Get in the
again,
car.
Carol.
Start my mom's car, her Buick 1965 Buick Skylark convertible.
Okay.
Turn on the radio. There's
Oh, there was Dennis on screen.
okay. All right. Well, we'll see you. Thank you for
Yeah, we'll see you
calling.
soon. Absolutely. So for Carol Tyler, this has been 22 Panels, and we will see you after the next page.